So quickly, I'll get you through a few slides. Briefly, let me cover the current state of bond and loan markets in terms of statistics. I'll quickly take you through the regulatory positives which have been happening over the last 2-3 years. And then we'll talk about a little bit about what's the actual function of credit analyst and then moving forward. Before I start the presentation, let me take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for investor education, including those mentioned here. And especially I would like to thank GARP Institute USA for providing C credit to this program, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for supporting us in this initiative, and of course NISM for helping us out. OECD did a study of about 40 countries back in 2009 and 10, and they surveyed the public institutions, which is mostly banks, and figured out what was the cause of credit crisis. And the majority of the respondents essentially came up with, and this is like more than 90%, talked about lack of financial education. And this was more to do with on the banking side, but majority of them, lack of financial education was the basic reason why these things happened, right? Ernst & Young did a survey a few years ago, not few years ago, in fact last year, talking about NPA situations at our home ground in India. And one of the distinct findings of that survey essentially was about 68% respondents from bankers felt that banks are required to enhance the skill set of the credit teams. For instance, credit team analysts needs to undergo periodic trainings to upgrade their skills. Scoring models, industry benchmarks, and credit evaluation sheets should be updated regularly. This is what Mr. Ghosh alluded to earlier. This chart has been taken from a McKinsey study. It was a benchmarking study done back in 2013. Essentially talking about the amount of gap you will have at private and public sector banks in the coming years in the senior leadership space. Talking about what kind of vacuum we are creating, and this is primarily because of back in 1990 to 1995, there was a hiring freeze, and those people are basically about to sort of complete their tenure. So that gap is coming up very short. All right. About 2014, RBI constituted a group on capacity building of banks, which was chaired by Mr. Gopalakrishnan from CAFRL. And one of the primary findings, apart from obviously training, which Sir mentioned earlier, was this need of generalist versus specialist. And if you look at most of the newspapers, essentially every, whether it's a private bank or whether it's a public bank, credit is one of the only function where they hire people from outside as a specialist, rather than through a normal process of your PO exam. Quick statistics on equity market size. Globally, you all know it's about 60 to 70 trillion, depending on where the market has been today. It's about to close. Bond market size, this is from BIS, Bank of International Settlement. The total data is about $600 trillion. Mutual fund industry at our home ground, we have about 12 to 13 lakh crores, out of which only 25% of that amount is equity. So 75% of that money, which about 44 mutual fund companies manage, is about debt. Same is for insurance company, which is almost double the size of mutual funds, which is about 24 lakh crores. This is including LIC. About 80% of the AUM which they have is about debt. Globally, you look at any market, equity has always been about 10 to 20% of the total balance sheet size, and remaining is always debt. And this is true for any of you who are accounting students who look at balance sheets. And in any balance sheet, your leverage ratio is about 2 to 3 times. Equity from a market perspective, Morgan Stanley did a study about a few years ago talking about there are only 51 stocks in the world which are covered by more than 50 analysts. So any stock which is covered by more than 20 sell-side analysts is considered to be an over-covered stock. So if 20 people are writing a report on same stock, there's no value to add for the 21st analyst to sort of make a career over there. And they found that globally there are 51 stocks which are most over-covered. 2 of them are Apple and Intel, and everybody knows that we use phones and computers. The remaining 49 out of those 51 stocks are essentially in India. So India is already the most over-covered market in the world, and per se has bulk of oversupply in talent base from that perspective. Quickly on the regulatory updates, we came up with a regulation on electronic platform for debt primary offering, which has been operationalized earlier this month. We already have a debt trading segment. We have interest rate futures, which have been operationalized in the last few years. The capital market side, the regulator has mandated a corporate bond database for all the bond issuances, which allows FII to invest in selected bond markets. From a banking regulator side, I think the banks started sharing the top exposure list which each other, talking about who are the, on a consolidated
funds would be in North.
Investment fund, REITs, InvITs, green bonds, municipal bonds are the talk of the town in terms of latest changes which has been done. CDS trading has been allowed since 2012 and 13, and all the regulators, including PFRDA, IRDA, SEBI, etc., have allowed market making on the same by the respective players. RBI has been very active in changing landscape for NBFCs, external commercial borrowing, unlisted debt securities. Recent example, was masala bonds, the rupee-linked bonds, and inflation-linked bond. And obviously, there has been a plethora of banking licenses, including payment banks, small financial banks, full-service banks, and some of them you will see going forward are started coming. The most recent, I think, the regulation consultation RBI had was on peer-to-peer lending platforms. And believe me or not, there are about 20 odd platforms in India which together are doing about business about $50 million of lending. We don't have the exact number of investors in those, but that's a big chunk of amount for Indian space. Now, moving back from regulation quickly, let's look at what a credit analyst is supposed to do or how he is different from the remaining roles, be it investment banking, be it equity analyst. The one thing which is common in most of the analyst role is that they spend long hours. Now, if you didn't know any job, gone are the days when banks used to spend 9 to 3 or 10 to 3. These days, even bankers work for 11 to 5 or maybe 9 to 6. I've heard that even the babus and the bureaucrats are working for long hours in the new government. But one is long hours, which is true for every company. One primary difference between equity analyst or a credit analyst or credit versus rest of the analyst, that in credit, you don't have sector specialist. So unlike equity, where you will have a pharma analyst or a chemical analyst or a banking analyst, in credit, you have either industrials, which is manufacturing, or either you have financials. At the end of the day, you're supposed to identify whether the guy is going to return you money back or not. And if that you can identify in any company, that pretty much makes the job, right? Unlike normal equity side where people will cover about 10 to 15 stocks in their job description, credit on an average will cover about 50 to 60 companies. And the other major difference is, if you were to find out whether the CEO of the company is willing to pay back the money or not, it's the CEO only who can tell you whether he is willing to pay back money or not. Classic example you have seen in few airline stocks or defaults which have happened in the past. But the crux of the point is, in credit, you spend a lot of time with senior management, not with the investor relation guy. You spend a time with CFO, CEO, understanding what's their thought process, what's their strategy. At the end of the day, none of the business wants to default on their own. They default because of lack of proper capital budgeting decisions. And it is the decision makers who can tell you how good or bad they have been doing their business. So from that perspective, credit analyst obviously spends a lot of time with senior leaders. The other quick point I want to make on the role of credit analyst is, unlike other sectors, credit is usually interlinked. So for example, you know about 2008 financial crisis where some of the bigger banks defaulted. Well, they didn't default because they were not solvent. They defaulted because someone else, failed to renew their credit line. And so it's a lot of these things are interlinked. So whether your supplier is in trouble, you could be in trouble. If your customer is in trouble, you could be in trouble. So as a credit analyst, you have to look at an overall sort of, ring. It's like a spider web where you have to look at everything around that company in that ecosystem and whether that can work or not. And if that can work, your company will definitely pay money. All right. Can I move the next slide? All right. Briefly, I want to touch on where the credit skills are required in any market, including Indian space. And this is where most of us have that gap in terms of where the credit skills are needed. Most common is the lender side, which people think that credit skills are only needed on the banks or NBFCs. Well, that's obvious. Whenever you want to give money to someone, you need credit skills. But over time, in last 20, 30 years, credit skills have emerged as a key skill for any other sector as well. Now, lender, all of you know. I'll quickly touch on borrower. Now, these days, any borrower or any corporate which has more than 1 crore of money in his bank account actively manages his own treasury into liquid funds or FMP. And you all know what happened at an auto company, very recently about their own commercial paper default. So on the borrower side also, you have someone who's actively looking at treasury, liaising with rating agency or raising debt. The third segment is insurance mutual funds, which is like the credit portfolio management I talked about. So on the investment side. Fourth is essentially credit rating. In India, I think for every loan, you need a CIBIL score, and obviously you need a rating above a certain threshold, which I think is 5 crores. Once the loan is passed, which is the primary lender side, you have a whole lot of monitoring, credit monitoring. I mean, some departments or some banks, they just call it credit risk, but that's kind of the post facto. Once the operation is done, it's kind of a post operation care, where if a bank is good enough in identifying early warning signals or stress signs of the corporate, they can immediately get out of that portfolio. And you will see that's why we have a whole new infrastructure of asset reconstruction company, which are out there sort of helping out banks and other lenders. You have an investment banking side of credit, which is mostly debt capital raising, debt syndication. And you have fintech and others, which includes all these IT companies and peer-to-peer lending platforms, etc. A quick snapshot. I'll give you these. I mean, these are some names I put in from demonstration purpose in terms of where the capabilities are high. So unlike a normal chart where the capabilities are low on one side and high on the other side, in this chart capabilities are high on both the sides. So irrespective whether looking at local players, global players, investment banking, lender, borrower, you'll need high skill sets. About CCRA, sir has already mentioned, is the only program available globally which focuses on all the 6 areas of credit. Now, you may find different programs on individual areas of credit like borrower only, lender only, treasury only, risk only, but this is the only global program available which combines all the 6 areas. There are 2 levels to the program, level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is primarily kept generic for non-finance guys also to come over and do it. So you will see bond match, financial statement analysis, and the credit specific analysis as part of it. And level 2 is where we get into details about rating, strategy, monitoring, risk, structuring, etc. In CCRA, we have content or international best practices from about 20 different global organizations. This includes the World Bank. This includes the Bank of International Settlement. This includes S&P, Moody's, Fitch. This includes Experian, Loan Market Association. So practically, you are learning everything which is out there in the credit space. So in conclusion, credit research will always remain a critical function of financial institutions and manufacturing corporation, and will play an important role in economy. And the market is growing with all the regulatory updates and new players coming in. So credit analysis in this scenario will provide a true differentiator and sustainable competitive advantage. Thank you so much.